just, thank you. Excuse me, just talk amongst yourselves while I set things up here. Got a lot of baggage. She probably told you, but I think that fits in real well with my talk today since it's called the road trip of life. Thank you. Wow. It's amazing when you get the spotlights on you. It's like, I feel like confessing, but then I forget what I've done. Whew. Anyway, now back to reality. I first want to say that when I was a small child, about 7 here in Chico, I was, I don't like to say kidnapped, but my grandparents came and decided it would be wonderful to take me on a week-long vacation, a road trip. So they took me from Chico to Canada. Well, I cried every single day that we were gone because I missed home so much. When I got back here, my grandfather, in his frustrated state, said, "You're just a Chico baby. You'll never leave Chico." And I thought, the problem with that is? Well, after I went on to college, I decided I got to prove him wrong. So I took off for 30 years. And now I'm proud to say that I am greatly admitting to being a Chico baby, and I'm very happy to be back here. So thank you all. Any other Chico babies out there? And now, back to the road trip. How many of you went on a road trip this summer? Somewhere outside of Chico. Oh, great. Where'd you go?
I went to Athens, I went to Santa Rosa.
Oh, how fun. Where else? Other places? I know. Yes?
Prague, Salzburg, Vienna.
Wow. That's more than a road trip. That's a flying trip. Others? Yes?
I went to
Indiana. Nice. All right. Santa Cruz. We got some good road trippers here. So how many of you, just by a show of hands, were in the driver's seat? You knew exactly where you were going, what you wanted to do, and how you were going to get there. Okay, got a few of those? Okay, now I want to see the backseat drivers. You weren't in that driver's seat, but you knew that if you did not tell them exactly what to do, there would be serious problems. We have one admitting to it. Anybody get lost? You didn't know where you were going, what you were going to do, or even if you were in the right car. Yeah? Finally, anybody feel like I kind of felt that you were kidnapped, thrown into the trunk, kicking and screaming, yelling, "I didn't sign up for this road trip. I don't want to be on it." You don't have to admit to that. Well, if you can relate to any of those previous scenarios, then I invite you to consider for a moment that we're all on a road trip of some sorts in this lifetime. We pretend not to be driving so that maybe we can play a little or even blame others about getting us lost. But we truly are the only ones steering our lives consciously or unconsciously. Now, how do you make sure your car is in proper working order before you go on a road trip? What do? Just throw something out.
Gas.
Fill it up with gas, good. Service, what else? Tires, yeah. That's good too, yes. All those are important. Well, one thing I like to do is get an alignment done. I notice that if I don't get aligned, my wheels aren't balanced, then I start veering off the road. Well, so too, if I don't align with my inner being. Before I go out into the day, I notice that my thoughts start straying one way or another. I become unaligned just from my thought processes. I let them go down these negative paths. This is where I begin my day with meditation. What do you do to align in the mornings? What are some practices that you have? Get your coffee. Breathe. What else? Walk. All these, just that inner, whatever it takes to feel that alignment, that connection. Yoga, walking yoga, any type of active, conscious movement that can get you aligned with your source. Now, also when you go on trips, I'm sure you pack baggage. How many of you can handle little suitcases? Don't have a problem with it? You don't mind wearing the same clothes a few days in a row? Okay, great. Well, not my mother. She went down to see her mom in Southern California, and she packed her car so full of belongings that you could not see out of any of the windows. And halfway down, she began to hear this loud wailing noise. Well, she didn't know what it was, so she finally had to pull over along the road, and she realized it was an alarm clock that she had set and forgot about. So then she had to take all her baggage out, and I think it kind of looked like a garage sale along the interstate. Do you have so much baggage that you've forgotten what you're carrying with you? Maybe you packed things from your childhood so that you wouldn't feel so homesick, like I should have. Maybe you packed memories of past pictures of trips so that you could kind of relive them again and again. Maybe you want to play it safe so you stick with the same route that you've always been on. Even though you don't like it, it's dusty and bumpy and a dirt road. Maybe you pack beliefs of lack and limitation, relationships that aren't serving you, or even health ailments. They fit so easily in your suitcase. They're comfortable there. You know exactly what pockets to put them in. And then within minutes of meeting somebody, you start sharing something like, well, you think you've got it bad. Wait till you see what's in my baggage. And after a few minutes, your life kind of sounds like a country western song. You begin to get so bogged down with all this that you can't move freely about. You can't enjoy life. You try and get someone to carry your packed issues and baggage for you, but everyone just wants to run. Perhaps packing less or leaving it behind altogether is the best thing that you can do. You could also do something that we offer here at the center, which I think is very powerful, and that's seek spiritual mind treatment. Now, we have that available to you. In fact, the practitioners who are in the room, could you please just raise your hand for a moment so people who know whom they can come to and just help release some of the baggage so that you don't find it later like a screaming alarm clock in your suitcase. Now, before you also go on your journey, oftentimes we used to use maps for this, but now we have something called a GPS. How many of you have GPSs? Okay, not everybody's hand went up that time, but I would like to introduce the idea that you all have a GPS. It's your God positioning system. And it could be here, sometimes it's here, sometimes it's here. It's just that inner voice that kind of speaks to you about which way you should go. I love it when I make a wrong turn with my car GPS and Siri, the voice in it, just says, calmly, recalculating. She doesn't care how long it takes me to get from point A to point B. She just patiently says, recalculating. So you really can't make mistakes in the larger picture of things. Spirit just always recalculates, always keeping our best and highest good in the forefront. There's a song by Janice Stanfield, and anybody familiar with Janice Stanfield? She has the lyrics that says, I'm not lost, I'm just exploring. So allow yourself to not just trust the direction that you're moving in, but the unexpected surprises that come along the way, the adventure, which leads to the first road sign that I have to show you today. Okay. And it is, can you all see that? Detour. Oh, so detour, it's not always a straight path. Sometimes detours can be, actually, I would say all the time, detours can become shortcuts to our best and highest good. Think about a time in your life that you felt rather lost or confused. You then realized that the most powerful path you could have been on was that very curvy, perhaps windy path. It might have taken months or even years to realize it, but then you got that there was a true gift in the journey. It might have been painful. Maybe it was a health challenge. Maybe you didn't get the job you wanted, the house you wanted, or maybe you even had a change of relationships. But then you found something far better than you ever could have possibly done so had you tried to pre-plan it yourself. The road less traveled truly does have unexpected gifts if we just remain open to them. If we don't label things instantly as good or bad, we tend to have that reaction. And to always remember that when we do make plans, God laughs or recalculates. This next sign, merge. Now, I know it has why merge, because I don't know if you're like me, but when you're getting on that freeway, I'd much rather just stay on the shoulder, create my own little lane. It's way too scary to just go plowing in with those cars. How many of you feel similar to that? You don't like that merging. It's just like, let me just stay on this shoulder. Well, we all know that that won't end very well. Instead of being afraid to merge, it's a way of, I want to have you look at it as our second step of treatment, which is truly uniting with the one, uniting with that flow, that inner state of life. You don't necessarily need to be in the fastest lane, but you got to pick a lane. Sometimes our fear holds us back, and we either make decisions based in fear or based in love. And so I invite you to make a decision based in love for yourself and say yes to opportunities, because I think sometimes we are afraid, we're unworthy, we don't think we belong on the interstate or the right lane in life. You can't merge into life with a fear-based consciousness. After all, life is truly for you. It says yes when you recognize your union with life and realize how powerful it is to be in that flow. Power comes when you step on that pedal. Don't let life pass you by as you cling to the shoulder of insecurity, because you truly do belong on the interstate. Now, this next sign is also important. Once you merge, there's also a time in life where it's important to just stop. Stop and reevaluate where you need to go. How many of you remember back teaching your child to drive? Just raise your hand. Anybody? Oh, good, and you're all still here to talk about it. I had kind of a challenging experience when my son turned 16, and he decided to pull out into this little intersection. Well, he instantly froze up, looked like a deer in headlights, in the middle of the intersection. Then he leans on the horn and doesn't realize he's the one honking. Cars start stopping at all intersections, all staring at us, and it's like, do something. So sometimes it's important to stop and reflect, but before you get into the intersection. I have that sign in my office that says, don't just do something, sit there. And it's important to have that contemplation, to think before we make that next big step in life. That's at a juncture. We can go right, left, straight, but it's very important to be intentional about it. So sitting quietly and allowing contemplation is very good for the soul. Now, this next one is not a sign. You just have to use your imagination for a moment. Pretend this is a side view mirror, okay? I was going to bring the one, but my real one, but my car's kind of attached to it. It says objects in mirror appear bigger than they actually are, okay? Got that? This one is here to remind us of the illusions of life. How often do we blow things out of proportion? We let our fears or unchecked assumptions just kind of take us on, like on a wild Bronco ride. Last time I was here, I spoke and shared a story about a spider. And it wasn't the spider that hurt me. It was my reaction to it. I caused myself far more damage by my fears than the thing that I was afraid of could have ever done. There are plenty of situations that we can dramatize. I'm sure you can think of a few on your own. But even think about what the news does, how that sensationalizes things. And perhaps you were at a scene at one point in the day, and then you heard about it on the news later, and you realized all the colorful adjectives they threw in to make it much more dramatic than it needed to be. So sometimes we have these dramas that are created that we don't need to be part of. Now, I am so grateful for the song you sang today, Anne, because it fits in so nicely. We didn't even know this. This next one. Slow, children at play. And this is perhaps one of the most important signs. Don't take things so seriously in life. Time magazine recently had an article on how important it is to play for adults. It's like we've forgotten that part of ourselves. So knowing that you really can't make mistakes in the long term of things, it's just little detours, allow yourself to play more in life. I was watching children play in the downtown fountains last Thursday. Anybody do that? And it was so magical. This one little guy, he was like a Caped Crusader, and he was running through the spouts of water with his imaginary sword, slaying each spout. And then this other diaper-clad little baby was bobbing about, and he didn't care how many times he got knocked over. He was just having the time of his life. So what are some things you've noticed about how children play? What do they have? What attitudes do they have? You sang some in your song today. What's one? Pure joy. Great. What else? Fearless. Excellent. I've noticed that they are in the present moment as well. They constantly live in the state of now. They have also this freedom to be spontaneous, and they love to laugh. Now, just for a moment, can you all suspend your belief that you're adults and serious? Not that you are. And let me indulge you just for a moment. I got this little test to see if my suitcase will open. So I just want you to toss these around for a moment and feel the freedom that can often come when you just allow things to flick off your hands and play. Good. We got, not in the thorns. All right. Quick responses. I like that. Okay, we can resume this in the social hour afterwards. I've got more balloons where this came from. Pardon? I know. It's like an unruly class I've had. No, it's okay. Just don't sit on one and pop it when I least expect it, okay? So, good. You all have exhibited that childlike wonder, and so today, you don't have to stop here. Later today, maybe go run through a sprinkler, eat an ice cream cone and let it get all over your face. Maybe even skip out of the sanctuary will make people wonder what we're up to here. The next sign, speed hump ahead, or speed bump. There, if you don't see over there. Now, this sign is also pretty important, but it's not to be taken so seriously because it's just recognizing that there's a challenge ahead. And when we're mindful, we can take these speed bumps like little roller coasters and not fear them quite so much. In fact, I even like to call them mindful bumps. It's where you can acknowledge that, yes, there's a little up and down, and that's okay. You're going to get through it, and there's nothing to be afraid of. Just like we take care of our vehicle by going slowly over the speed bump, so too do we need to take care of our bodies, this vehicle that we're in, when we go over the challenges or the bumps in life. Has anyone ever tried multitasking and you hurt yourself because you were doing too many things at once? Yes? Okay. Like maybe you thought that climbing the ladder while talking on the cell phone and turning on a chainsaw was a really good idea. Being conscious and slowing down, especially when there may be a challenge, allows us to be mindful in whatever situation might arise. Now, I want to share with you a little reading from the book, The Art of Uncertainty by Dennis Merritt Jones. In fact, it's going to be the focus of one of the first classes I teach. And in it, he says, right now, if you intentionally take a deep breath and focus on that breath, in fact, let's do that for a moment. Everybody breathe in deeply. To the count of 2, just focus on it and let it go. You will discover that your mind and your body are in the same place at the same time. Novel idea. The irony is that our body can't be in any other place than in the present moment. But far too often, our mind is elsewhere. Mindfulness is the practice of calling the thinking mind back to where the body is so that the two can mingle and become one. As you incorporate awareness of infinite presence into the moment, doing becomes seamlessly infused with being as the ability is at hand. So I think that's so important, just to keep that mindful breathing in any challenge that we have. Now, the next sign on the road trip of life is, what's this? No U-turn. We can all recognize that one. Sometimes we just ignore it, like I did in Oregon one day when I was on a road trip. Well, a policeman happened to see me. And as much as I tried to argue that because I was from another state, I didn't know the rules, it didn't work. It was still illegal. So as much as you want to go back in life and kind of fix or redo some past experiences, you can't. You might have the best arguments in the world about why you should go back there. And so even though it might not be illegal, is it really for your best and highest good? Just like letting go of baggage, we often cling to the past, thinking that somehow we can fix it. What would happen? Just think about this for a moment. If you drove your car forward indefinitely and only looked in the rearview mirror, probably wouldn't work out so well. Anybody ever try that? While you might not physically have done that, how many times have you said, I didn't do well in school, that means I'm not that smart, that means I'll never amount to anything. Einstein flunked out of his math class. I love that Derek had that shirt on today because I was going to pull that idea of Einstein up. He was considered a failure in his time in several ways. Bill Gates was a college dropout. Now, as a teacher, I am not advocating any dropouts or, that education is not good. All I'm saying is that there are countless success stories of people who defied their past. They weren't defined by it. They went on to create brilliant futures. In fact, our founder, Ernest Holmes, says, principle is not bound by precedent. Basically, what that means is that just because it didn't happen doesn't mean it won't happen in the future in a positive way. You're not here on this road trip to go backwards in life. You can use your rear view mirror as a brief review mirror, a place to quickly reflect on what was and then move forward in a positive direction. What do you think the last sign will be? Dun, dun, dun. Now, many people fear this sign. It can be very thought-provoking, and people try and avoid it at all costs. We build it up to be way more drastic than it actually needs to be. 3 men were asked what they wanted people to say about them after they died. The first thought and said, I want them to say, he was a great father. He was always there for his children. The second one said, I want them to say he was a brilliant worker. He never missed a day in his 30 years. The third one thought more intently and said, I want them to say, look, he's still breathing. I don't know about anyone else, but when I see a sign like this, I'm kind of like that man. I want to find another solution. I want to prove the sign wrong. I think I can find another way that maybe nobody has discovered yet to get around to the other side of the dead end. But it is then that my internal GPS kicks in and says, get out of the car. You must leave this vehicle behind to get to your next destination. When you come from that perspective, that life is an ever-evolving, eternal possibility, you see the larger picture and are not stopped by the illusion of death. You might have to give up this form of transportation that we call the human body, but there is something far greater to experience that we can't see from the vehicle that we're in. After all, we truly do know that this is not the end. And now, the road trip is an eternal adventure, taking us on a tour of all these infinite possibilities that we have no idea how incredible they can be. So I'd like to invite you now to join me in our spiritual mind treatment, our form of affirmative prayer. Close your eyes if you choose. And know with me that there truly is one power, one energy, one incredible manifestation that we can call God, Spirit, the great inner net, or inner state. And we know that as we merge with this power, we let go of the baggage of the past, and we powerfully step into the lane that we deserve, that we belong in. And we joyously remember to play like children, to laugh and love along the path, along this roadway, and truly live out the possibilities that we are destined to be in in these wonderful vehicles that we have given this time around. And I'm just so grateful to know that as we go into this week, that each person here demonstrates to their best abilities their true greatness that Spirit has given them. And now I gratefully release this to Divine Mind, knowing that as I speak these words, they are acted upon. And together we say, and so it is.